You know how if I was a pirate, my name would be Pissless Pete.
Welcome back to Lil Whores, everyone.
No! I'm so sorry. No, I didn't know you were recording.
I'm always recording. Welcome to the second episode in which we're going to talk about episode 4 of the Magnus Protocol. We kind of did the first 3 as like a lump because we'd listened to the first 3, and then Ala was like, "Oh yeah, hi, I'm Joe or Amber. I use any pronouns. Yay."
Yeah, I'm Alo. I generally use she, her, but I'm not like majorly first. We did forget to introduce ourselves last week. I say last week. This is going to be uploaded probably at the same time.
Yeah.
But
oh no, I'm gonna upload it next week. I'm gonna get inside the loop of like whenever we record, I'll upload the previous episode. I think that's like a nice.
Oh, okay.
Just because then like I can do like everything all at once, and you know.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. Quite clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're here to go a little bit insane, a little bit feral about the Magnus Protocol. New, most recent podcast by Rusty Quill, a sequel to the Magnus Archives, and currently taking up so much rent in my head, personally.
It's just, I mean, I mentioned this last time, but it's just like so much fun, like being able to delve into like something new and not know everything about it. So that's what this little side series / thing is, the Theory Corner. We just sort of talk about the episode, what we liked, and just do little theories and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm also
I would
eating
love to
nuts,
open
so
up.
if you hear me chewing, suffer.
Damn. Just nuts on the podcast, I guess.
Nuts in my mouth. Right.
I would love to open up with the fact that I'm devastated because my current Annabelle Kane theory is in fucking shambles.
I mean, he was called Augustus. Like,
well, I thought they were just being fun with it, you know, gender nonconformity and what have you.
yeah.
What happened to the queers, huh? No, nothing but men in my Windows 95, 94, whatever the fuck, Windows Stone Age.
The precursor to Windows 95. Yeah.
That's the one.
So we talked about last episode where we knew that the way that, well, statements or whatever, the short horror stories, the way that they were read out by these text-to-speech voices. And we had Norris, what was...
Chester
and
Augustus.
Yes, and Augustus. And we know that, I mean, Chester and Norris are John and Martin. Like they're
definitely voiced by Johnny and Alex.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
like it makes you think they're probably John and Martin, as far as we can tell, as far as we know.
Yeah,
it could be John and Martin.
Yeah, again, like I don't know if that's a red herring. We don't actually know like how connected the Magnus Protocol is to the Magnus Archives. We don't know if like they're going for like the John and Martin are still important characters in this, or whether this is just like a neat Easter egg. But the third voice, Augustus, we finally got in this episode, and I don't know about you, but I don't know who this is.
I looked him up. He has, like, his IMDb, nothing on there. He has nothing to do with the Magnus Archives previously. He has nothing to do with anything. Like, this is a brand new, fresh face. Like, this is a new guy. And I think, my theory, if you would like to hear it, I think this is this universe's OG Jonah Magnus.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. He's like an older gentleman. He's from the potentially from the 1800s or so. The statement was quite old.
Yeah, it is 1831. It is from November 1831. Um, which, old man sort of like one old man sort of statement from an old man sort of guy in an old man sort of time. And also, I we don't actually have a name for the person in this statement. I've just got him in my notes as Uncle Violin with his evil blood violin.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's really interesting if this is Jonah Magnus, the original Jonah Magnus, not like, because we hear Jonah spoken through the voice of Elias because of the whole body hopping thing in the Magnus archives, which is why I'm thinking this is the OG original ye old Victorian Jonah Magnus.
Yeah, I mean, he
Um,
does sound kind of similar to the old, like, Jonah Magnus or, like, the Jürgen Leitner guy, you know. I do think it is a new
mhm.
character, whether it's this universe's version of Jonah or whether it's
Yeah, I also
someone
think
else
it's
entirely.
somebody new and fresh like that. Um, and I think it's really interesting if this is um, Jonah, that there is potentially that sort of mirroring, that reflection, those parallels between Uncle Violin, who is like carrying around his evil and cursed blood violin and like feeding people to it so that he can further his own career and keep himself going. Like there's a bit of a something going on over there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, yeah. Again, the thing that like is bothering me about this series is that there are so many parallels. Like it feels like almost too obvious in a way. Like it feels like they want us to think, oh, this is a Jonah Magnus, or this is a Johnny Sims, or this is a Martin Blackwood. Like they want us
Hmm.
to like think in the realm of like, oh, okay, this means this, and I'm not sure it is
Yeah.
going to be because like
Hmm.
again we have like
You
the
think it's
ye
red
old.
herrings?
Yeah, I do think it is. I mean, we also have like again, sorry if I'm just like cutting towards the ending of the episode here, but Lena at the end watches some CCTV footage of like her
Oh,
bot.
Gwen watches. Yeah,
Gwen
Lena.
watches Lena. Sorry, um, like I don't know. You don't really know what's going on. Like you just hear a guy like begging to like forget about him, and Gwen's like, "What the hell?" And then like the episode ends. So like dodgy boss moment. But again, that was in the previous series. We had a dodgy boss moment as well.
Hmm.
What are they wanting us to think versus what is actually going to happen? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. I do completely get that and I agree. I think what is also interesting is the fact that like, well, maybe not interesting, but something to keep in mind is, are we overthinking too much in terms of what are we supposed to think? What are they wanting us to think? But again, Magnus Archives was over 200 episodes with dozens of characters who had like a fair amount of development and like characterization to them. So anything that we see, we can probably draw a parallel to somebody in the Magnus Archives because Johnny put in so many fucking characters with so many backstories and so many like different like things going on. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, I can I definitely think that you can overthink it. But also at the same time, it's in an office workplace which deals with categorizing and sorting supernatural events. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same layout, you know? The
Same thing, different font.
Yeah, the only difference is that the main character being Sam, I mean, arguable like who is the main character in this. Um but my bet's on like Sam sort of because he's just been focused on the most. Um
Yeah.
uh he is a bit out of his depth, like he doesn't really know what he's doing. Um, whereas like John like kind of did, like he had already been in this business for a while, whereas Sam just straight up doesn't know why or what anyone is doing here.
I will say, like, okay, John, we know later on in the series, like, John was experiencing the supernatural and he went into it, like, with strong denial. And he had been working there for a while, but Sam definitely knows something. Like, I'm not saying that he's like faking his naivety, he's faking his like ignorance in that, but like he definitely knows something's going on. He's
Oh yeah,
like we opened the episode with the fact that he's been searching in the databases for Magnus and Protocol, not even the Magnus Institute, Magnus and Protocol, which is the first time we get to hear it said in the podcast. So
yeah,
Magnus Protocol real, um, and it is restricted. It is restricted.
Yeah, and
Why
Alice
is it
pops
restricted?
off at him for like looking at that, saying that he's going to get in trouble, and you know there are greater powers at play here. So she knows a lot more than she's letting on as well.
Hmm. My, if I may share where my brain is at currently, there's like 2 points that I wanna focus on, which is one, why is Magnus Protocol restricted? Um, and even though it is restricted, who has restricted it? How do we know that Alice isn't the one that's put those warnings there for her to catch, as
Yeah.
opposed to it being like, do we know for genuine whether this is something that management has put in place to like restrict searches on Magnus Protocol, or is this something that Alice has put in place herself because she's like, well, it's odd that it's come to me, but like you're lucky it has, and nobody else has to see this. Like, why wouldn't anybody else see this? Why
Hmm.
wouldn't Lena, the manager, see this? Why wouldn't upper management see this? If it's such a red flag, then how is it going to your computer? And why are you the only one that would see it?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she definitely does seem like the most like aloof about the whole working in this place.
And yet she takes that so seriously.
Yeah, that's like that was like kind of like a scary like difference between her in the previous episodes.
Hmm. Which is why I'm sort of on the fence now in terms of like, what is Alice's deal? Because I'm not. I was talking to staff this morning about like, hey, where are we standing on like what the fuck is happening right now, and we were throwing around the idea like, hey, Alice evil? Is Alice evil? I don't think that she is like evil like Jonah Magnus Elias Bouchard, like I'm evil for the fun of it kind of thing. But I think it is really, really interesting that we have Alice and Sam as the two sort of main characters, where Sam has clearly seen something supernatural previously and has made the deliberate choice to work here, and is now looking into things related to the supernatural, to the Magnus Protocol specifically. And I'm wondering if like Alice has accidentally let something slip and he's gone, okay, that's where I need to be right now. Can you get me a job, please?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering as well, is Alice working here and has accidentally seen something and is now trying to walk it back? Are they both like going in opposite directions where like one is coming from working here to seeing something to wanting to separate, and the other is coming from seeing something, working here, wanting to get closer to find out what it is?
Yeah. I mean, also another distinct difference I think that is important is the fact that Alice seems to be not too fussed about the categorization, whereas Gwen definitely does. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like, uh, in like one of the early episodes, she was like, "Oh, zombie would have been fine," and Gwen's like, "No, it wouldn't have been. It has to be like reanimation crossed with like loss or something." Is she running this place? Is she trying to sabotage it? I don't think there's enough information yet.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I suppose we could,
agreed, honestly.
yeah. I suppose we could talk about like this. Well, I say the statement. We call it a statement. They're not statements anymore. They're more sort of just collections of media which are read
Yeah,
out. But this one was a
it
letter.
is easier.
Um, letter of some guy. He was a violinist. And he didn't like his teacher. He went to like a school or something. That was the thing.
Ah,
And
ooh, actually, something very interesting
oh yeah,
is that he's going to the Royal Court Orchestra of the Palatinate in Mannheim in Germany, right?
yeah,
And I looked that up because I was like, Germany, suspicious. And he ends up in the woods because like his this is very much, I know we said we wouldn't be drawing parallels between like the Magnus Archives and Magnus Protocol, but like this statement was giving very much the slaughter because it is wanton violence motivated explicitly by music, which is so the slaughter.
yeah. I mean,
um
the slaughter, the flesh. Like, there's. You could also argue the spiral as well. But
I
I
was
guess.
thinking the spiral. But yeah, so his like his music teacher, who he does not like, seems to go a little bit crazy and then jumps out of the moving carriage, and he ends up like abandoned in the woods in Germany,
Yeah.
near enough to the Royal Court Orchestra of the Palatinate in Mannheim to walk there, you know?
Yeah, it's a bit too convenient. Like, I mean, well, to cut a long story short, as you mentioned, his teacher jumps out and basically dashes his head on a rock and just dies. The driver thinks that he pushed him out, and then, like, just out of panic, like, they get into, like, a fight and he kills him. So he's left alone now. And then suddenly he comes across this stranger who is described as, like, this upper class gentleman type person.
Just
And
chilling in the woods with a fire.
yeah, and
Like,
and he has this bag of trinkets. So we have the Trinket Man, who might be a recurring character. Um,
yeah, yeah. Actually, I like the Trinket Man. I've got him down as the traveling tradesman, but I think Trinket Man is much better.
yeah, funny Trinket Man. Like, it's mentioned that, like, he sees, like, multiple different kinds of items, like gambler's dice and, like, amongst other things. But he pulls out this violin. And he's like, "Hey, do you want this violin? Do you want to buy this violin off of me?" And he's like, "I have no money." And he's like, "Oh, well, you can have it anyway then." And then he runs off. and
He just
um,
disappears into the ether.
and then suddenly, the character that is written, this story's written from the perspective of, suddenly he ends up like a day's walk from
I mean,
the
yeah,
place
the
he was
Trinket
heading
Man
to.
was like, go that way. You're not that far off from where your destination is. And then he leaves. And it's like, how did you know that?
Hmm.
Um, well, what I think is interesting first is that it was giving very much like the devil went down to Georgia, like I'm about to make a terrible deal with somebody for this. It was also giving the statement of the soldier who like went into a basement and like cheated at a game of dice with like an avatar of the end.
Yes. Yes.
But more interestingly is I went to Google Maps and I looked up where Mannheim is.
Oh.
And then I looked into the Magnus Archives episode Schwarzwald, which is a letter from one of Jonah Magnus's associates in Germany, the Black
Huh.
Forest.
Huh.
And they are maybe, what is that? Yeah, it's like a 2 hour drive. The Black Forest is fucking massive, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like from like say middle to low middle part of the Black Forest to where I cannot read it. That font is way too small for me to see currently. Oh, I can't pronounce that anyway. Essentially what I'm saying is that the Black Forest is a few hours walk from Mannheim. Like, what if he's in the Black Forest? What if he is in this exact same forest where other horror stories happened, specifically in relation to Jonah Magnus's associates and what have you
Right.
from the I'm drawing. I might be going crazy. This might mean nothing, but I am definitely drawing connections.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a case of, oh, the Black Forest is kind of big and scary, and they're just using it again. Or it could be a link. Um, Also, something that I think is also important is the whole Mannheim, like, well, let's talk about the violin uh, first, because the violin is the fucky wucky thing.
Yeah, it
The
is our second artifact of the series so far.
Yeah, so the letter is from this guy. He's like, "Hey, my grandson or son or whatever, if you're reading
My
this,
nephew. This
nephew,
man
that's
got
it."
no bitches.
Yeah, so there's also the nephew to think about, which is also a potential future character. He gives him the
Mm-hmm.
violin as like his inheritance, and he's like, "Hey, this violin's kind of fucky. You need to feed it. What do you feed it? You feed it blood. You play the strings, and it cuts your fingers, and it makes this fantastical music."
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, if you uh, play it and you do not offer it blood, then everyone goes crazy and kills each other. So it seems to be like he did this for profit initially, I feel, and fame, and then he sort of started going, oh, if I don't feed this violin, it's gonna make everything bad.
Yeah.
um, which I think is personally what's happening, even though he can't bring himself to destroy it.
It's yeah, it's one of those, it's almost like an addiction, I suppose, even if it's not an addiction in terms of where you might specifically benefit, but it is definitely an addiction in sort of the ritual of it, and then the fear of what will happen if you separate yourself from this thing that has become so intrinsic to your identity
Yeah,
and your livelihood.
yeah. But the fucked up thing that I think is also like the Mannerheim school anyway on its own because sorry, my brain is so frazzled at the moment. I'm so tired. Um, yeah, so the Mannheim School itself, I think, is fucked up because when he plays his music, he's like cutting his fingers. Like he mentions like losing ends of his fingers. You know,
Hmm.
like and it it's obviously quite ability to display, and yet they watch like. I don't know whether this is
Yeah,
purely
it's
the
not
violins doing,
clear.
but they seem a little too, into it.
Yeah, it's not clear whether or not people are noticing whether or not he is actively bleeding as he plays. Because if you think about a violinist and you're in an orchestra, like they're quite small on the stage. But then the question is the violin distorting people's perceptions in terms of not being able to see? Is this the author's own like bias in terms of thinking, well, nobody ever appreciates me or what I've done and what I've sacrificed? Of course they didn't notice. Or is it like genuinely people just didn't give a shit?
Yeah.
I think probably one of the first two.
Mm.
I think it is a sort it might be a metaphor for like how performers and artists are not appreciated by the people who benefit from their art, but also this guy was sacrificing people to his violin, so I don't exactly think he has the most generous view of the world, and I think he definitely has a bit of a chip on his shoulder
Oh,
regarding
100%.
like rich people.
I mean, he kept talking about like the circumstance of his birth and all that, and I'm like, oh, was he like a bastard or whatever? Or
Yeah, he seems to be the bastard son of some kind of English lord.
yeah, and like again,
Or
he
English
keeps on mentioning
family.
that is like getting in the way of like his like progress. And like
Yeah, I don't think anybody in Germany would give two shits whether or not you're a legitimate or a bastard son. I think the fact that you're a good violinist is what will get you to where you need to be.
yeah, again,
You
it's
know
an
what I mean?
unreliable narrator. I feel his
Mm.
opinion of it will probably get in the way. Um,
Like even if he was incredibly successful, he serves to me the energy of like he could play for the king, for the queen of any country, and still think that he's not getting the proper like due
yeah,
like accolades or whatever.
yeah,
He
completely.
seems like a bit of a bitch, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, musical people can be dickheads, which is evident in his teacher as well, because his teacher was like, "Oh, this is my success that you got into this academy. It's from my tutoring," and he's like, "No, it's
I
all
did
me."
this.
When really it's a
I
collaboration, you know?
Yeah. It's it's giving English landed gentry energy. But can I also say it's really, really interesting, I think, that even this guy who is like absolutely shitting on his relations, he's like, fuck my dad, he never cared about me just because I'm a bastard and I was embarrassing to him, and fuck all my siblings who only wanted to wait for our dad to die so that they can get their inheritance. Everybody's a bitch, everybody's greedy. Um, he has his blood violin which was the key to his success. And he hands it off to a relative. He hands it off to a nephew of these siblings that he thinks are also selfish and up their own asses. Like, what does that mean in terms of, a sort of a metaphor for inherited, not trauma, but definitely like shitty behaviors and attitudes? Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, he could also totally be giving his nephew the violin because he's like, haha, you're like part of the group of people that I hate. I'm gonna make your life miserable because you now have this violin.
Maybe, but he seems very fond in his tone. He's like, "Oh, you came to stay with me for a summer, and I did sincerely like enjoy that time, and I hope that I was like I hope that I am a memory to you. I hope that I
Yeah,
impacted you because clearly he seems to be quite like lonely, which obviously,
yeah,
but he seems to be this seems to be the only way for him to pass down anything, and he's doing it through blood still,
yeah,
metaphorically and literally, and he does seem sincerely fond of this nephew and is almost still putting that weight on him, that sort of inherited burden of this tool that is also like a literal cursed violin. So there's something going on there. There's a metaphor to be made there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he is also a serial killer, and he's mental. Because
Hey, baby nephew, do you want to join the family trade?
yeah, that was something that happens like afterwards, like after he plays without, like he bandages his hands so the violin can't cut him, and it makes all of his audience come out and they start killing each other and like sucking each other's eyes out. It's very grim, very good
Mm.
writing. Um,
Oh, I would love to say I have really thoroughly enjoyed the statement. Like it was a guest writer that they had
yeah,
on
it was
again
so
this week.
good.
And
And the only reason
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, the only reason he can stop playing is because like someone knocks over like a candelabra and like the place burns
Yeah, the
down.
building starts catching
Yeah,
fire. So he himself was then a slave to the violin in that
yeah.
context.
And then
Um,
he starts to like tutor for like free, but like he's not doing it really for free because he's just like killing people. He's like Sweeney Todding them. Like he's like
yes, yeah. He's picking the most vulnerable in society who have the least amount of chance to like for somebody to raise the alarm. Um, and he's getting them. They're high risk victims.
yeah,
High
like
vulnerability, high risk.
yeah, like again, like this goes back to what you were saying about like how he has like a very warped perception of the world because like he's like talking about the circumstance of my birth. Oh, it's such a downer in my life. And then he's like, "Oh, I can just like kill these people because no one will miss them and I can feed my
This is a
violin."
street urchin. I can
Yeah.
kill it.
Yeah. So there is hypocrisy in this man through and
I
through.
mean, he's a little English lord thing. Of course, there's hypocrisy in this man.
Yeah. 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 But
Yeah. If I can say though, like in terms of like this like sort of statement standing by itself, like I did really thoroughly enjoy the writing.
oh yeah, it was
I
fantastic.
I went absolutely mental over like the little violin twangs that were getting more and more prevalent throughout the entire statement, which is delectable. And also, when they hit that line, the blood for your strings need not be your own.
Yeah.
Slay, actually. That was so slay. This man might be evil and he might be English, but that was kind of slay of him to say.
Yeah, it was very I genuinely think that it was one of the more interesting characters that we've had so far, out of everyone in the Magnus Archives. Like, he feels important, and again, like, 1830, whatever, he hands it to his nephew. How many generations have been through this? So I'm wondering if we're going to get, like, the most recent inheritor of this
Yeah, if there's
violin.
gonna be more violin. Or if this is just a one-off violin. It's
Exactly.
just like, here's a little taste.
We have no clue. Like, it could come up again, or it could just, not. Like, that.
Exactly. We have no idea. Um,
But I think it's a good setup for like future stuff. I really enjoyed it. It was much more of a traditional Magnus Archives episode, being that it was mostly just about like the statement. Um,
yeah, it was a longer statement.
yeah,
One thing that I think is really interesting with the new format of protocol versus archives, the Magnus Archives is statements. People come to the Magnus Institute to make their statement, and the archives team go out and do research on those statements themselves. So you have context, you have the storyteller's context, you have the research team's context, you have the full story, or as full as it can get, and you have John's own sort of theories on what happened. So you have like a lot to be going off of. Whereas with Protocol, you get this snippet and nothing else. You just get these little sort of eavesdropped moments of other people's horror and then nothing. You're just left in this void. And I
yeah.
think that is so interesting. We don't even know this guy's name.
I mean,
We don't even know his name.
it does feel like very like in and out because, again, like you said, there's that sort of supplementary like research that is done and like that recontextualizes stuff. But this, like, they're literally hearing these things, they're categorizing them in some
And then they're moving on.
arbitrary sort of useless way, and then they just go. Yeah, like there's nothing else. Like they never really see those like statements again. And that I feel like is one of the major differences, is that like there is no real end game as of yet. Like
Exactly, yeah. Like even the characters themselves are like, we actually don't know what we're doing at this job, but we're getting paid for it, so we just carry on. It's odd. It's odd. It's weird, and like I'm having a lot of fun with it. Just
Yeah.
very scared.
And yeah, I'm very interested to see how it goes. I also really enjoy the fact that we got new writers. Like as you mentioned before, the guest writers have been phenomenal. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean,
Because yeah, last week was a guest writer, and last week was the guy who like murdered his wife.
yeah,
Putting Down Roots episode 3, where he becomes a tree. I thought he was becoming a lavender bush, but the characters talk about it as if he's becoming a tree because they're like arboreal journal entry.
yeah.
Um, but like I enjoyed that one so much. I think I said like it made me want to go into the earth and become a tree a little bit. That's like
Yeah, it was a good corruption statement. Uh,
yeah.
like it was rot, but like specifically like plant rot and like
It was rot,
gardening.
but also growth. It was so
Yeah,
fascinating. Like I hate the corruption. The corruption is like one of it is like my like if I had to pick what fear I'm most afraid of, it is the corruption. Like I don't fuck
you
with
don't
that.
like the
But this
icky.
one, I don't like the icky. I don't. I've had to see too much icky. I've had to smell too much icky. I've breathed in so much icky. I don't want to do it again. But I might accept becoming a tree.
See, this reminds me of there's like this bit. Have you watched like the Hannibal series?
Oh, I think I have like watched a lot of it, but I retained nothing. I think I watched most of it in one day, and I was like, ah, that
Okay.
did nothing, and then I erased it from my memory.
No, there was this one like scene where like this person had like kidnapped a bunch of people and buried their bodies in the soil and kept them alive using IVs and stuff to
Real?
like yeah to like grow mushrooms off of them. And
Is this
like
Hannibal that did that, or was this like a
no,
separate
it was
serial killer?
it was someone else, but
Wait, so how many like fucked up serial killers are in Hannibal?
oh,
It's not
there's
just
so
him.
many. There are so
And they're
many.
all in like the same tri-state area?
Yeah, I think so. Eddie Izzard, isn't it?
Who the fuck is Eddie Izzard? Hang on, I'm
You
gonna have to
don't know who
Google that.
Eddie Izzard is?
The name rings a bell. It
Stand-up
sounds like
comedian,
something.
transgender.
Yes, I was gonna say for like a queer icon, but
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm
they're
so bad with faces and
but
names.
yeah, she's in it, and she plays a mental person in it as
Yeah, Eddie
well.
Izzard.
Yeah.
Is she a serial killer?
Oh yeah, big time.
Oh, slay.
Yeah, no,
Women
it's good.
slay.
I need to. I finished watching the series, but like I kind of didn't watch all of it because I was like very grossed out by a lot of it,
Hmm.
visually at the very least, which is why I really like the Magnus series. Anyway,
Yeah, sidebar there.
yeah, I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about. I don't know about you.
I
Um,
have so much more to say. I have my I'm sorry, girl. I'm not done. I've been taking notes. For context, anybody who didn't listen to the last episode, I am taking notes, and I am taking so many notes. And yes, when this episode's starting up and they go episode 4, taking notes, I did almost shit myself because it's like, how did you know? Um,
the eye sees everything.
they see everything and they see me in my little keyboard. So first up, Colin. He is actually genuinely Scottish. His voice actor is genuinely Scottish.
Oh
If
yeah, we
I didn't
established that last
mention that.
episode. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, no, but staff looked it up then, and they're like, yeah, no, the voice actor himself is actually from Scotland. It's just from a different region, so it sounded different to their ear, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Also, I want to talk about two things, which is Gwen's like end of the episode where she is suddenly like watching some kind of video.
yeah. Is she
But
like plugged
before
into
that,
the CCTV as well? Like, is that what she's
well,
doing?
I was looking at the transcript, right? And I don't think that's what happened. I think somebody. Here's what I'm here. Okay, hang on. I'm pulling up the transcript. Give me 1 second, because they do describe it. They give you a lot of details in the transcript that is not there in the audio.
Yeah,
So we know that the name of the person in that like exchange with Lena is called Klaus.
right.
Um, yeah. So they both exit. That's where Sam and Alice exit. Extended pause as Gwen works. There is an email notification from her PC, and she goes, hmm? She opens the attachment, a recording plays. The audio quality is very poor. Klaus, video, begging. Please, please, you don't have to do this. Younger Lena,
Oh, it's a recording.
video.
It's not.
It's a video.
Yeah, I thought it was like live feed or something. Right, okay.
No, somebody called Klaus is begging. Younger Lena says, we both know I do. Klaus says, I could disappear again. They would never know. And then Gwen gasps, Lena, what the hell? Computer turns off. So I know we said we wouldn't be drawing too many parallels towards the Magnus archives, but I'm thinking that Gwen is in a sort of similar position to John, where somebody is sort of laying a breadcrumb trail of bits and pieces in front of her to sort of maneuver her into a
Yeah.
specific situation or position or mindset. Somebody has sent this to her. It could be John Martin, Jonah in the computers doing this. It
And
could be
again, that
Colin.
is
It could be,
if it is even Jonah.
if it even is Jonah, it could be Chester Augustus Norris in the computers sending this to her. It could be Colin. It could be Central IT. It could be somebody that we don't know about.
It
There's
could be
actually a
Alice.
handful. It could be fucking Alice.
Yeah.
It could be Alice. Um, but somebody has sent this to her and she seems like very caught off guard.
Yeah.
I don't think that Gwen is doing any sort of external investigation. I think she's suspicious of Lena and she hates her guts, but I think that's like a professional hatred. That's a I
Yeah.
want your job hatred. And somebody behind the scenes, whether they are supernatural or normal or anything in between, is pulling these strings and trying right now to maneuver Gwen.
To become
Because
like the
Gwen,
sort of Bouchard like archetype you're thinking?
I'm thinking they're like doing what like Elias was doing to John, which is setting up this person who takes their job very seriously and is very dedicated to their work and also probably has a lot of anxiety around doing their job properly, that they can be sort of easily manipulated and pulled into suspicion and paranoia. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, I can see
I
that.
think that's what
I
happened.
mean, if we're going off like the OIAR, God, it's such a hard fucking name to say.
I
If we're going
know.
off like the OIAR being like this sort of, oh, this is like a cult, kind of like this is
Hmm.
a place which is being used to make people do supernatural things and make one of the powers dominant again. I could see that.
Yeah. Um, but again, also we are missing a lot of the main characters. So obviously, Alice, Sam, Gwen, Lena, as well as Johnny and Alex have all appeared. Colin has appeared, Teddy has appeared, and then Augustus has appeared. But from their post about like who is going to be on the cast list, we have Lorianne Davis playing Celia Ripley and Ellie Dickens playing Lady Mowbray, and they have not appeared yet. I know we're only 4 episodes in, but
Hmm.
there's two main characters who haven't appeared, and Teddy Vaughan, who is the guy who quit to work in insurance, he is slated as a main character. So
I mean, I feel like he's
maybe
coming
he'll come
back.
back.
It wouldn't make
He's
sense.
coming to come back.
Yeah, like I again, like as I talked in the previous episode, I find it a bit jarring that they started this with like a leaving party kind of thing, because in the Magnus archives you can't do
You
that.
can't do it.
You can't leave.
You can't do it.
And them starting with him leaving, I'm kind of like, okay.
They're making a point. They're making a statement here, pun unintended, but they are doing this on purpose. They're telling us, they're giving us, context clues, show don't tell type of thing.
And what was the other thing you wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about Starkwall.
Yes. Oh my god, I forgot completely.
I did not because it freaked me the fuck out, and I was like, "Who the fuck is Starkwall? What is going on with that?" So when Alice is like, "Hey, Sam, what the fuck do you think you're doing looking up Magnus and Protocol?" Which I'm still very suspicious about. Um, she says that it was vaguely referred to by the old guard. But what is? Yeah, I'm sorry. Give me
Well,
one
what is
second. I'm
the
being
old
very.
guard? What is?
I'm assuming the old guard is people who were working there when she started and who have since quit.
Okay, right, yeah.
Is what I would think. So it's the previous staff from like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, depending how long Alice has been there.
Yeah.
Depending how long any of them have been there, really. Um, we know Colin's only been there for about 2 years, and Sam is obviously new. We don't know how long Gwen and Alice have been there, but they sound like they've been there a while.
Yeah.
Um, so she says, like, you can't look into Magnus protocol because it's bad news, high level stuff that is extremely restricted because they work for the government. And she says that it's related to Starkwall, which is the name I'm thinking of an organization of private military contractors, which is fucking terrifying to think about that. Like, because at
Yeah.
first I thought Starkwall was a person, but I think now more likely to be the name of an organization.
Yeah. Because
Private
didn't like Sam also
military.
mention there was like a shooting or something, or like there was like a
Yes, yes. So Alice says it related to Starkwall, and then I think sorry, Alice says related to Starkwall, and then Sam goes, "Wait, do you mean Starkwall from the San Pedro Square massacre?"
that was it. Yes.
What the fuck does that mean?
So
Is this why there isn't a like um OIAR response team anymore? Like what the fuck is the San Pedro Square
was
massacre?
yeah, because it sounds like Starkwall was like a like or is like a well-known company, either just doesn't work for the OIR again anymore, but or whether it was just shut down completely because of said massacre.
Exactly. Exactly. Or are they still sort of running secretly underneath like the surface for the government? Like who knows? San Pedro Square, as far as I can find in terms of like a quick Google, is in San Jose, California,
Right.
which is like very interesting if you think about the fact that why does the UK government have um relations to a private military contractor that is related to a massacre in America?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like how big does it get? Or is there like a San Pedro in Spain maybe? But then again, why is the UK involving themselves in international affairs? They'll do whatever the fuck they want, but
yeah. I mean, not to draw like like parallels between this and like SCP, but like the SCP Foundation is like all over the world. So I wonder if the OIAR has like divisions like all over the world as well. Like maybe something went wrong in the Californian branch, and that's why they don't have a response team anymore. Like because seemingly they
something's happened. A massacre has happened.
yeah, like I mean, again, they might have massacred all those people for very good reason. It could be to like deal with like an anomaly of some sort. But to the outside world, how does that look? Like,
And also like was it this military contractor organization massacring regular people, supernatural people, or was it the supernatural massacring a military company?
yeah, was
Contractor
Starkwall
one.
like taken over? Was Starkwall taken over? Was yeah, like again, we don't have enough information. It's just I know that all of these little breadcrumbs are
They're
gonna
gonna
potentially lead to something.
Also, there is a San Pedro Square in Malta, but it seems to be San Pedro de Alcantara. So I think that most likely we're looking at San Pedro Square, California.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
we'll see
man,
we'll see what we see, but yeah.
girl, we will not be seeing anything until it's right on top of us. That's how Johnny Sims works. That's how he fucking operates. This is how he's gonna get us. I keep thinking, oh, I'm one step ahead. I'm like on top of it this time, and then he'll drop something else in an episode, and I'm just like, guess I'll just shit my pants and die.
Yeah,
He's gonna
yeah.
get me again.
Yeah, it's like you kind of like zone out. You're listening to the podcast, and then you hear like a name that's come up again, and I'm like, wait, shit, that was meant. I can't wait for that to happen again. I'm very much looking forward to
You're
it.
gonna be hearing from me when that happens. You're going to be hearing.
Right. I think
I
that's
think I think that is the end
yeah.
of
I think that's
what
everything.
can be said.
Yeah. I mean, unless you have anything
Oh,
else to add. I'm
yeah. In terms of like Lena's whole thing, where like what I mean, we were talking about Gwen, but like in terms of like what we know now about Lena, nobody's surprised to find out that the manager has done a brutal pipe murder. But do we like what do you think are the context? What do you think is the context of Lena's brutal pipe murder of Klaus? If she did do a murder, she could have done something else, but maybe she turned into a monster and ate him. Like who's to say? But do we think that one, did Lena potentially murder Klaus because of something supernatural, like she's a monster and he knows about it, or there is something going on and like she needs to get rid of him? Essentially, like, what gives her the authority and the leverage over this man to kill him over trusting his silence? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I
what puts her
mean,
into that position?
I mean,
And do
that's
we think it's
if.
supernatural, or do we think it's like corporate murder? Like, this
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
this is nothing to do with supernatural. This is just business.
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
regular murder.
I think it could go either way, but we don't even know if she's killed him. We just kind of know that she's done something weird, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
there's an implication that something's definitely happened.
yeah, we shall have to see.
We shall have to see. I actually don't think I've got any closing thoughts after this because I got everything out, and honestly, um, I've got closing questions more than anything.
Yeah, I get it's one of those things where it's like, we need to listen to more. We need more clues. We need more information. Wait, did you just, like, conclude, like, your thoughts on something?
I think I did. I think
Holy
I
shit.
have
Oh my god, I'm gonna
some
stop recording right now just in case.